What's up, Dragon Brood? It is day 6, I think, 6 of previews. Correct me if I'm wrong. It is February 1st, and we're going to be looking at more cards. Just took a quick glance to see how many cards there were, and it looks like there's quite a few. Again, I want to preface this with that we're kind of making assumptions without seeing the whole set, and we're kind of speculating on what the metagame may be whenever we're making different comments here or suggestions on what cards can do. But I also haven't looked at these, so you kind of get my raw review as I'm seeing them, so we'll kind of make the most of it. But yeah, yesterday had some cool cards, so let's see what today's got going for us. Alright, it looks like there's quite a few cards today, so what I'm going to do is I'm trying to hit up all the rares and mythics and the sagas, and then if there's any time left in the video, we'll hit up the other things. But let's start here. We've got Cloudsteel Kian, which has some pretty sweet art. Kind of reminds me of the thing from Kaladesh, like the big wooden horse looking thing. But this is 2 colorless and a white for a 3/2 artifact creature equipment Kian. So that's a cool callback to the old Kamigawa sets. This has flying. Equipped creature has flying, and you can't lose the game, and your opponent can't win.
You what? You serious?
Almost had me throw my damn headphones. Like, okay. Why? Why do we keep making these types of cards? We don't need these mechanics. Why? Why is this a thing? Why? Why do we even need this? This is probably my third least favorite mechanic behind extra turns and Annihilator. Probably this comes in second, like can't win or lose game mechanics. Anyway, this card also has Reconfigure 5. Man, we just got started today. I'm just like the first card. And, oh my gosh. Okay. Has Reconfigure 5. So you can put it on a thing and you can equip it onto a creature. That creature gains that ability. Now, I will say this. For the plus side, it is only a 3/2 when it's just a creature. So that part is good. It can't be, it doesn't have that, like the other cards have usually the ability they have, and then that ability gets attached to the creature they equipped. In this case, this is only a 3/2 flyer for 3, unless it's reconfigured onto something. So that does make it actually reasonable, barring, ignore my ridiculous reaction. In all seriousness, like this is actually okay. Like it's a fine card. It's not great, but it is one of those cards that if you know your opponent doesn't have the right card or they don't have a kill spell, you just put this onto a creature and you can kind of do what you want until your opponent finds a way to remove the creature that it's on. So yeah, a little bit tough. I don't know. Like the card's going to get played, no doubt. And hopefully it doesn't end up on something with like hexproof or whatever, because then you're having to look for just a go wide sweeper or some such, or I don't know, maybe even something that gets indestructible could be annoying. So yeah, this will show up somewhere. I just don't know where. But it's a fine card on its own, but if you find the right shell, it does become quite annoying. This little sweet card caught my eye there just a second ago when I looked at it. But Mobilizer Mech, 1 colorless and a blue, 3/4, just has some super sweet art. I don't even know what else is going on there, but it looks awesome. It's flying, 3/4, so that's cool. It's a vehicle. Whenever Mobilizer Mech becomes crewed, up to 1 other target vehicle you control becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. Actually, and it's only crew 3, so this is actually really cool. Now, this is the type of card that is probably going to be one of the centerpieces to those vehicle type decks, right? Because we already know we have a bunch of stuff that has the pilot ability that gets to crew for less or whatever. So that's awesome, right? You're going to be able to crew this fairly easily. It becomes a 3/4 flyer at that, and then you get to auto crew one of your other things. Effectively, you turn it into an artifact creature, right? But for 1 crew cost, you get 2 crew effects out of this. This is pretty sweet. I actually really like this card. It seems very simple. It's cool that it's an uncommon, but if you're going to play the vehicle deck, this definitely has to be a 4 of. Okay, first off, look at how different the artworks look on these things. Like these alternate versions are super sweet. A little bit harder to read because of the framing and the coloring, but just the way they set them up are just like cool pieces of art. Anyway, This card is Light Paws, Emperor's Voice. It's a colorless and a white for a 2/2 legendary Fox Advisor. Whenever an aura enters the battlefield under your control, if you cast it, you may search your library for an aura card with mana value less than or equal to the aura and with a different name than the aura you control. Oh, then each aura you control. Put that card onto the battlefield attached to Light Paws. Okay, so if you play an aura, you get another one that costs less, but also can't be one you have in play. So that's going to make deck building kind of interesting depending on what you choose to include in the list, because you're going to want a couple of cheap ones that you can also get, but you also are going to want variety, so maybe just 2s and 3s of stuff instead of 4, so you can always have different things to go get. But this is actually a pretty cool little card. It's a 2/2 for 2 with upside if you're playing it in one of those enchantment decks. The thing is, though, right now, I'm not sure if enchantment decks become aura-based or if they're going to be more just creatures that happen to be enchantments and maybe alongside sagas, is what it feels like right now. So, though this card is interesting, it may not be made for current 60-card standard. Maybe it's for some older format, but an interesting card nonetheless. Right? March of Wretched Sorrow. It's X and a black mana for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this, you may exile any number of black cards. You get to reduce the cost, so similar to the other marches. March of Wretched Sorrows deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker, and you gain X life. This is actually a pretty cool one. I mean, just a good removal card. Late game, you could pay 6, kill a 5/5, you gain 5 life, kill a planeswalker outright. Like, yeah, this card seems good. Well, there's really not a lot to say other than, like, this is a good card. I mean, even if you don't discard anything to reduce the cost, it's pretty fantastic. And it's not busted because you can't target an opponent with it. It's just a creature or a planeswalker. But, yeah, just a good, versatile card. Oh, I thought this was well, I already pulled it up. It's an uncommon. We'll talk about it anyway. Spinning Wheel Kick. XX green green sorcery. Uncommon. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each of X target creatures and or planeswalkers. So it's not even okay. So this is a bite effect and not a fight effect. So your creature deals its damage equal to its power to up to X target creatures and or planeswalkers. Wow. So if you pay 4, your 4/4 that you've probably already paid for and is out there gets to deal 4 damage to 2 things. Or even a 3/3 just getting to deal damage to multiple things. This is interesting. I'm sitting here processing. Sorry, that little slow moment there. But this card, and now it is a sorcery, but whatever. Like, this card's probably playable in multiple formats. Like, it's playable in a format where there's creature heavy decks. That's the biggest thing, right? If there's a bunch of mid-range and control, whatever, probably not going to be that good of a card. But if there's a significant amount of creature-based decks or aggro decks or whatever in the format, this thing could be pretty legit. Like, this is a cool card. I'm not sure that artwork is really a spinning heel kick, but whatevs. Like, still pretty sweet. Spirit Sister's Call. 3 colorless, black white, so 5 total for an enchantment. It's a mythic. At the beginning of your end step, choose target permanent card in your graveyard. You may sacrifice a permanent that shares a card type with the chosen card. If you do, return the chosen card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it gains, if this permanent would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. Ooh, this is pretty neat. Again, if we're talking about the enchantment-based decks, you can just keep getting stuff in and out of the yard. This could also be interesting for the cleric type decks, right? They're already doing a lot of recursive type things. A one of this in those decks could let you get creatures back out of the yard and keep cycling them in and out. That could be kind of cool. Yeah, this card is just neat. This seems like it'd be fun in Commander as well. Like, this is a cool card. I like this a lot. Right, Weaver of Harmony, a colorless and a green for a 2/2. Other enchantment creatures you control get +1/+1. Pay 1, tap it, copy target activated or triggered ability you control from an enchantment source. You may choose new targets for the copy. Yeah, this card's baller. Like, it's a 2/2 for 2, which is reasonable. It gives all your other enchantment creatures +1/+1, which we know there's several in the set already. And randomly works for older formats or casual formats where you have stuff from like Theros and stuff. But you also get to copy activated abilities and triggered abilities. So basically abilities of your cards for 1 mana. Like, this can't be bad. I refuse to believe this card's bad. Like, anything that triggers from your cards coming into play, anything that triggers from cards dying, anything that can draw you cards. Maybe you have one that, like, do a thing, kill a creature. Like, that's the thing. Hell, we saw the one the other day that, like, deals 4 or destroys a tapped creature, right? You could copy that and kill 2 things. Right? This is cool. Yeah, this card's just good. Not much else to say, really. This card, if this card's not playable, I'm going to be really disappointed. All right, Takenuma, Abandoned Meyer, Legendary Land. Tap for black. It has channel for 3 and a black. You can discard this card, mill 3 cards, then return a creature or planeswalker from your graveyard to your hand. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. Yeah, I think like a lot of the other channel lands, it's just good. This is, I think, the 4th one we've seen, and they all seem playable and usable. So, yeah, and this fits into decks that want to mill stuff in their graveyard, maybe Life from the Loam or whatever, putting lands in the yard and getting this back in your hand and kind of keep doing that. That's a thing. Any type of recursion decks at all that are putting things into the graveyard that you want to get back into your hand, like that's a thing. Like, this is just an all-around versatile, useful land. So, yeah, would not be surprised if this largely becomes a one of. Like, this is the type of card that could be very expensive being in a lot of commander decks, right? Just for the ability to get a creature back out of your graveyard that you want, or a planeswalker back out of your yard. Like, that could be good enough on its own to justify this card existing, and it just comes into play and produces a black. It doesn't even have to come into play tap. So, yeah, these new legendary lands with channel are very good. We got to use a translation for this one, but it's Soul Transfer. Colorless black sorcery. Choose one. If you control both an artifact and an enchantment while casting the spell, you may choose both. Exile target creature or planeswalker. Return target creature or planeswalker from your graveyard to your hand. Yeah, this card's solid. Now again, it's a sorcery, not an instant. So that is a real thing. But 3 mana to exile a creature or a planeswalker seems legit. And the one thing I will say, though, I do have one complaint with this card. Is like, we're making a lot of cards that say exile a creature or exile a planeswalker. This, in some ways, is negating all the things that like can give indestructible or whatever, right? This is negating graveyard manipulation effects or whatever. Like, I just don't know how many board sweepers and how many exile things we need to have in the format at the same time. That being said, that's a rant for another time. This card is actually pretty solid. I would rather it be an instant, so I'm not sure if I like this more than Hero's Downfall necessarily, but I do think the card is actually playable. All right, we did get the blue Invoke, and no, it is not that one. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. Invoke Whirlwind. It is 1 blue, so keeping the same cost as 1 colorless and 4 colored mana here. Sorcery, gain control of target artifact or creature, untap it. Just sorcery, gain control of a creature or an artifact, untap it. Wow. I hate steal effects, but I get it. This is also one that makes you dedicate to more blue mana, so it's not that bad. You know, we have some other steal effects in Standard right now, and they don't get played that often. But this is good. The fact that you get to take something and there's no takesy-backsies, right? If they kill the creature controlling it, or the enchantment, or whatever. This is just yours forever from this point. So if you end up finding a way to put this in a deck where you do get to cast some stuff for free or whatever, could be very good. As is, it's probably fine. But yeah, this is actually a useful card. Would not be surprised if I lose to it a time or two. All right, let's wrap this up talking about some sagas. So, Akiba, Reckoner Raid. 1 black. Ooh, interesting. The first 2 chapters are each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Simple enough. And then on the 3rd chapter, it comes back into play as a 2/2 with Menace. Vehicles you control have Menace. Ooh, also neat. And it is a Rat Rogue. That's amusing. Yeah, this is actually just solid. Like, it's a decent early play. You play it, your opponent loses 2 life, you gain 2 life. and then you get a 2/2 with Menace. Right? That's fine. If you're playing the vehicle deck, I don't know what colors that deck wants to be yet, but if it includes black, this is just a bonus. But yeah, I think this is a fine card. Nothing exciting, but just generally playable and useful. Could even work in the mono black aggro decks as a way to just like drain your opponent for 2 and then still get a 2/2 out of the deal, potentially. Here's another rare one that's going to require a lot of translation, so stick with me on this one. It is Invention Iteration. It is 3 colorless and a blue. Chapter 1, return up to 1 target creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand, so you get to bounce a thing. Chapter 2, return an artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. If you can't, you draw a card, so that's cool. So at a minimum, it's drawing a card. In Chapter 3, it comes into play as Living Inspiration. It's a Moonfolk 3/3, flying. Whenever you cast a spell, your opponents can't cast spells with the same mana value as that spell until your next turn. That is a weirdly worded ability. So like if I cast, I don't know, let's say, I'm trying to think of something good. I don't know, let's say you cast a 1 blue thing, right? Then your opponent can't cast a 1 blue spell until the next turn. That's peculiar. I don't know what to make of that. I'm not sure how I feel how good that ability is. Like, but I will say, for 4 mana, the other 3 parts of the saga are actually pretty good, right? The fact, or 2 parts. The fact that you get to bounce a creature or planeswalker, and you get to return an artifact from your graveyard, or you draw a card, so that's still fine too. And then you get the bonus of a 3/3 creature with a minor upside, but still reasonable. So I kind of like this. Now, I will say one thing that's interesting. It just says until your next turn. So it's not even on this turn, actually. So if I cast anything now, you won't be, like, let's say there's a sorcery that costs like 4, right? If I play it, then until my next turn, you can't play anything that costs 4. That's actually pretty cool. And it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even say the same type. It just says the same mana value. So, and an interesting thing, if there's a card I'm worried about you playing, I can play one on my turn just to keep you from playing it on your turn. Yeah, okay, so maybe this backside actually has some legit logic to it. Like this, it's worded a little differently than other Magic cards, but it actually is pretty good. So, yeah, let's turn that frown upside down and give this one a thumbs up. Okay, I think we got through all the big hitters today, and that wraps things up for day 6 of previews. Man, that was a lot of stuff. What I'm really enjoying is today felt like we found some cards like the little green creature that works for the enchantment decks, the blue uncommon that works for the vehicle decks. I feel like now we're starting to get to the point we can start seeing the puzzle kind of come together between a few different cards, and that's actually really interesting to me now that we're starting to see, hey, all right, if maybe you want to build this type of deck. We're looking for some key pieces, and they're starting to be revealed. So I don't know what else is left for this week to show that's important, but we're just past the halfway point. The count I just looked at says 162 of 302, so still about half the set to go. But so far, this is looking really good. Lots of interesting deck building on the way. There's going to be a bunch of stuff we're going to try to jam here on the channel. So yeah, but let me know if there's anything that stood out to you today, anything you're looking forward to, any of that wonderful stuff. As always, please remember to join the channel. For as little as 99 cents, you can support me here in lieu of me having a Patreon. If you don't do that, though, please remember to like this video because that helps so much. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and remember to click that notification bell and choose all notifications. Otherwise, that's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time.